guys, my name is Jasmine. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be talking about every book I read this year and it will all be spoiler free. So my original goal was to read 22 books because that's how old I turned this year, but I actually read a total of 25 books. And the way I rate my books on Goodreads is a range from 1 to 5. 1 being that I think they're so bad, they should never see daylight again. 2 being that they weren't good, I didn't like them, but they were probably just not well developed. And 3, it was a good book. It just didn't leave a lasting impression. 4, I think it was a great book, fantastic. I would recommend it to people. And 5s are books that I just think are so great that everyone should at least read them once in their life. And these will all be my opinion. I usually give about 3 to 4s. But other than that, let's get started. So first up is a book called Lady Killers. I don't have the physical copy with me because I somehow misplaced it. But yeah, so when you think about serial killers, you usually think of men, and that's because that's the narrative that we are most comfortable with, and it's easier to think of women as victims rather than perpetrators. But this book does a really good job in disputing that idea with female serial killers that aren't like really well known to the public, and they have been either forgotten or written off in history. So I like that the way that the book was written was very casual, and it made the book really easy to read with like a splash of humor, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. I liked learning about all these other female serial killers that I didn't know about, and then the way that they carried out their crimes. So the second book I have is Men Explain Things to Me. So I don't really read a lot of nonfiction, but when I do, it usually relates to feminism. So from the title, you can probably tell that it's a collection of essays of subtopics regarding feminism, and one of the topics is mansplaining. So the author actually coined the word mansplaining, and most of the time I like reading these short essays, I guess you can call them, because they're just easier to digest, and you can like kind of just spread it out throughout the year, and it's much more of a casual read. But the problem I have with this one is that I just didn't think the writing quality was engaging despite the topics, and a lot of the ideas proposed were not really like thought-provoking, so I gave it a 2 out of 5. The third book I have is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Do I even need to like say anything about this? I've mentioned it many times that it's my favorite book, and it's bumped up to the best book of all time. Not only because I'm like a sucker for classics and like especially gothic horror, but to summarize this book, it's about a young, very beautiful man who sells his soul for eternal youth and beauty. The writing is not only beautiful, it's also very melodramatic in the way that it carries you through the idea of like moral corruption and narcissism. It also explores the study of like shallowness and vanity, cruelty, and the cost of it all upon a mortal human. So I can sit here and talk about this book all day. I really can. But if you didn't guess, it's a 5 out of 5. I wish I could give it more. Literally, everyone should read this book at least once in their life. Fourth book I have is called The Alchemist, and I know this book is often assigned as many people's like high school reading, but I did not read this in school. So it's about a novel about a journey of a shepherd who travels in search of treasure, and like that's very open to interpretation. The simplicity of this book is what makes it so like enchanting. Yes, like at moments I did think it was very corny or cliche, but I think it's a type of book that can help everyone learn something that can be applied to your life however you choose to do so. So it was a 4 out of 5, had a good time reading it, and like it's pretty thin too. Valley of the Dolls, which is book number 5, and I love a good sprayed edge book. This one is like this like hot pink, I guess you can call it. So this one is called Valley of the Dolls. If you want a book that's like really just emphasizes the fact that like men ain't shit, this book follows 3 main women in the New York City harsh reality of climbing the entertainment industry in the 1960s, and like the downfall of what their lives turn into, along with pill addiction, which is why there's little like pills on the book cover. And I really enjoyed the book as a whole, not only because like I never really read many books about the 1960s, but I love the way that their lives were intertwined. It was like cool to imagine the glamorous lifestyle at the time where drugs and alcohols were real heavily involved in the culture, which like I'm sure it still is now. I did give it a 3 out of 5 just because like with these like semi-realistic fiction novels, the ending still has to be somewhat grounded. So I felt like the book didn't need to be this long. Like it was not really like climactic, I guess. It was just a mellow like storytelling of these three friends and their lives in New York City. Book number 6 is actually a graphic novel. It's the cutest graphic novel I have ever read. It follows a friendship that turns into a crush about two high school boys on the cover. It's just so innocent. It's so wholesome. There are like more volumes to follow this one. I think there are like 3 out now in total, if I am correct. I just haven't gotten them. They're super adorable, super heartwarming. It's like really fast read. The colors are just so cute, and it was a 4 out of 5. Norwegian Wood, which is book number 7 by Haruki Murakami, and I had such high expectations for this book, mostly because the internet hypes it up so much and like hypes up the author so much. But to quickly summarize, this book follows a young college guy in Tokyo and his coming of age story. There are topics in this book that are like trigger warnings for many people. The writing style is very flowery, and in my opinion it comes off as like it was just very pretentious, and it like glamorized slash romanticized the truth of mental illness and depression and suicide. So I didn't really like it. I don't know if like it's just the book or the plot or the writing or the author. But I did buy another book from this author, so I'm willing to give him another chance. Maybe it's just the plot of this book that I did not really enjoy. So I gave it a 2 out of 5. No one attacked me for this rating. Book number 8 is called Our Women on the Ground, another collection of essays from female Arab and Middle Eastern journalists of how feminism ties to their homeland, with collections of work and some stories that are really, really captivating and others may not, which is like totally normal. It's a bunch of like short essays. I did enjoy the insight it gave me on just a different culture and how feminism applies to not in the United States, I can say. So it was a 3 out of 5. I really liked it. Book number 9 is called Uzumaki. It's a graphic horror manga by Junji Ito about a small town that's haunted by spirals. And yes, like that's literally it. I don't know how else to explain it, but this wasn't necessarily scary, but the art is very, very detailed, so it makes you like uncomfortable in the best way. I would describe it more as gory and like skin crawling, and definitely haunting, but I wouldn't say scary. Junji Ito is like the king of making like disturbed images in like manga. The art just like, it really just makes you feel some type of way. I don't have a phobia of like spirals. I do have a phobia of like small small holes, but not of spirals. But after reading this, maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I see spirals and I'm just like PTSD a little. So 4 out of 5, mostly because of the art. The next set of books, which is books 10, 11, and 12, I don't know how I am so late to the game. No pun intended, but it's the Hunger Games trilogy. I did watch all of the movies when it came out, which was like when I was in high school, but I never read the books until now. And all I can say is fantastic. Better than the movies. It deserves all the hype it gets and got. I don't even think I have to explain this book because there's just so much killing, romance, corruption, everything you would ever want in a good YA dystopian. So I gave all of these a 4 out of 5, I think. Yeah, I thought they were great. I don't know what else to say. Amazing. Love them. The next book I have is called Orange. It's a manga that revolves around a friend group in high school with this girl named Naho who gets a letter from her future self telling her that she has to watch out for this guy and pretty much save this boy in her class from his fate / destiny. It was really cute, like the way that they're all really sweet to each other. It's very predictable and a lot of like just guessing, even though it was like very cliche. I did think it was very soft. I don't know if that even makes sense as a description for a book, but I thought it was really soft, which is not really my vibe. But it was a 3 out of 5. Liked it. There are more volumes to this. I just don't really feel like reading them. I know that they turned it into an anime, so I might just watch the ending of that instead. The next books I have are Death Note Volume 1 and 2. So I've watched Death Note as an anime, but I never read the manga. After I saw these black editions with sprayed edges and different characters on the cover, I just had to invest. And I mean, I love the anime. I would just love to get to know like more of the story. But if you don't know what Death Note is about, it's about a high school student who is like straight A, perfect. His name is Light, and he finds a notebook called a Death Note, and any human whose name is written in the book just dies. And like there are people in the city that are trying to find him because he keeps it anonymous, and he's like fighting this other guy along with like the police force, the investigators. They're both super hot. Some lines in the book are a little misogynistic, and I don't like that, but the violence, the murder, the tension, and then like this like cat and mouse game is just very interesting. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I haven't finished the whole manga series because I just barely got the rest of them, but from the first 2, I gave both of them 4 out of 5s. Book number 16 is The Immortalist. This was voted best book of the year in 2018 by New York Times, so you can see why I had high hopes. Sadly, it was kind of a flop. It's about 4 siblings who seek out this woman who is able to tell them how each of them will die, and we like follow them through their lives eventually to their death. And I mean, the plot sounds great, right? You're like, cool, like how are they going to die? Like what are they going to do once they know about this like death date? I guess, yeah, death date. Blah, 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 blah. Book number 16 is called The Immortalist, and this book was voted best book of the year in 2018 by the New York Times. So you can see why I had high hopes for it, but sadly, I thought it was a very big flop. It's about 4 siblings who seek out this woman in New York City, and they're able to tell them, she's able to tell them when they are going to die, like the exact age and date. She doesn't say how, and then we follow them through their lives to see how knowing your death date will like affect your everyday life. And like the plot sounds great. You're like, how is this like? This is amazing, like this is gonna be a good book. The idea was solid, the execution of it was just messy and not interesting. Like it started off good, like I did tear up on like the second chapter / person, but then like by the end, I wanted to write the book for her. Like there could have been other ways to carry out each of the characters' life, but it was just boring to the end, and it was a 2 out of 5 for me. Didn't really enjoy it, obviously. Book number 17 is another graphic horror manga by Junji Ito. This one is a femme fatale about Tomi, and it's like how she gets murdered by her classmate, but she never truly dies. The art is great, the plot was decent, so it was a 3 out of 5. The next set of books I have are 18, 19, and 20, and if you haven't been listening to anything I've been saying so far, that's fine, but listen to this. Listen, Linda. These are the best magician / fantasy novels I've ever read, and if you don't think you like reading about magic or fantasy, it's because you haven't read books like these. Think Harry Potter, Mortal Instruments, and Hunger Games wrapped into one. This is it. There are 4 Londons, and we are on this adventure with these magicians that get to travel through them. A lot of crazy shit happens, like possession, lots of violence, sexual tension, games, great fashion choices, just amazing books overall. I can fangirl about these all day, and I probably will for the rest of my life. But the first book I actually only gave a 4 out of 5 just because it was just establishing the characters of scenes, so it wasn't very exciting till the end. But the rest of these, so books 2 and 3 are 5 out of 5s, which means I think in total I would still give them 5 out of 5s. I understand why this one was a little bit slower. Like you have to establish a whole world that has its own dialect. Actually, all 4 Londons have their own dialect, so you have to establish that. You have to establish the characters within each world, and then the political system. It's a really well developed idea, and world. I would recommend these to everybody, and I probably have. The next book is called Another. I don't have the physical copy with me. I actually saw a clip of this anime on TikTok, and then I watched the show. It was just very gory and ominous. I loved it. It was another horror one, so my friend actually lent it to me. It's pretty much about this middle school class haunted by a curse, and if they don't do something about it, they might never make it to graduation. So let's just say lots and lots and lots of people die. The twist in the story is very good. Like, I didn't see it coming, so great, 4 out of 5. The next book, which is book number 22, is called Nasty Woman. Are we surprised? It's another nonfiction about feminism and politics. This is a collection of essays from women writers in the aftermath of the 2016 election. I wasn't allowed to vote back in 2016, but I remember everything very vividly. I had just gotten to college. Like, I remember the day, everything. This was a great book to finish before November 3rd of this year. I just wanted to get insight of what other people felt and how this, like, the 2016 election affected their lives and throughout the 4 years up until this point, pretty much. So I thought it was a 4 out of 5. It was a much more like casual read. Each of the short stories or short essays were very captivating in what the people had to say, and also like how their lives kind of turned upside down because of one man in the office. Book number 23, we're almost towards the end, is called I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey. This is a collection of poems written by the singer Halsey, and I'm just going to openly admit that I'm not a poem person, so I don't really have the proper qualifications to dissect this book, but I did enjoy it. It's very dark in her thoughts. Like, it's just very, it's like diving into someone's brain, and it's not all happiness, sunshines, and rainbows, but I give it a 3 out of 5. Book number 24 is called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I love the title of the book, and when I bought this, I didn't realize that they also turned into a trilogy, but not all of the books are out yet. It's just like planned. So it's about a straight-A student who is on a mission to uncover the truth about her small town's murder 5 years ago. And this is a YA novel, so it's really easy to read and very entertaining. I finished this in about like 2 days, and even though it is a little predictable, it was still fun. A very light read to just like pass the time and kind of like solve the murder with her, and knowing how a small town has so many deep, dark secrets. But I mean, if you watch Pretty Little Liars, like, it's kind of along that essence, but less confusing and faster. So, great book. I don't know if I said this, but it was a 4 out of 5. We have reached the last book of this year. It's book number 25, and this book is the bane of my existence. It took me about 3 months to finish because it just drained me emotionally, and this has been voted one of the saddest book of all time, and I can definitely agree. It's like the kind of sad that just tears you down slowly. It's really stunning and expertly written. Great quotes. The writing is fantastic, but reading it sucked in like the best way possible. I mean, like, I know what I signed up for, so I wouldn't describe the writing as beautiful just because a lot of the things that happened and the way they happened, I don't think you should use the word beautiful to describe it. Pretty much it follows 4 guys from college through the rest of their lives. This book does not have a climax, and it's not written in any like chronological order. It's just jumping through different time and like stories. Yeah, so you like, it does mirror real life, which is why there's no significant like one single event that just blows everything up. The author does a great job in making you care for these characters as if they're your own friends, and seeing them go through such like shitty things just kills you inside. Like, you really want to help out. I will say that this isn't a light read at all. Like, the entire book is a trigger warning for sexual, emotional, physical abuse and self-harm, depression, eating disorder, like all of that. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone just because I don't think this is a book that should be sensationalized in a way that, like, if you don't read it, you're missing out. Like, it's really not meant for everyone, and that's perfectly fine. So despite knowing that there's not going to be a happy ending, I was still very hopeful, and like reading like that just made it harder because like you know it's not going to end well, but you're still hoping that it would end well. So it was just like peak anxiety, and it felt like knowing something bad was going to happen, but just waiting for the shoe to drop. Like just keep flipping through each page like, is this it? This is it? Is this it? Is this the time that like it's really gonna kill you inside? I did like this book, and I can probably talk about it for days. I sobbed at the last 200 pages, like ugly cried. Yeah, so like this book was a 4 out of 5 for me. I thought it was great. Would I recommend it to everybody? No, just because of the like how much it does take a person to read it. Like I do read really fast, so the fact that it took me 3 months isn't because I was reading it slow. I just have to keep putting it down to like settle everything in and be like, this is just a book, like this isn't happening to anyone you know, even though all the things that happen in this book can possibly happen and already probably happened to people around the world. Yeah, so 4 out of 5 for me. Thank you for watching this video. I had a great time filming this. I had a great time reading all of these books. Even though December is not necessarily over yet, I do think that A Little Life is the last book I will read, just because I do need an emotional like separation from it. And if I do read another book, it will probably be a manga or something super short and super sweet, which I will probably include in next year's video. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want me to talk about other books, or if you have a specific book you want me to read and talk about. But other than that, thanks for hanging out. See you guys next time.